Welcome in one, welcome in all. Now here we go for the 100th time. It doesn't even matter how hard you try. I'm drowning in your lives. I designed this rhyme because who cares if one more light goes out? Who cares when someone's time runs out? Today we are going to be talking, well, if you're in the video, you see it right above my big head, a band that admittedly is not in my top 10 listened to or anything like that, but still a highly regarded, revered band, heavenly in sound, if hellish in theme. But the embodiment of everything we've talked about for 3 weeks now, with a strong emotional core, lyrical expeditions meant to whisk you away on a journey making you intimate with the human mind and heart, carrying you deep into the doldrums of pain, rage, self-doubt, a band built off of fever pitch fervor. My name is Smiggy, and I'm joined, as always, by my co-host,
Ryan.
And this week, we will be going over Linkin Park's From Zero.
What an intro. You were prepared. My intro was, Linkin Park's a band. Thanks for being here. That was great.
Well, I did say, I was talking to some people earlier, and I said, you know, not to get totally off track here, but you know the old myth about like the idea that you only use 10% of your brain?
Yeah.
If you could pay a subscription service, because that's how the world works, where you could unlock, you know, in increments of 10% all the way up to that 100%. But of course, every 10% it gets higher because, again, capitalist society. But how much would you be willing to pay for that first 10%, if at all?
I don't know. I'd have to see what they were charging and if I could afford it, but I would keep doing it because I'd hope that I would get smart enough to like be able to game the system and figure out a way to do it without paying for it, you know? Maybe I can unlock enough of my brain so that I can do it myself. See,
I was kind of leaning something like that as well, but then somebody that I was talking to kind of made my mind start going like, what if I accidentally unlock a 10% that makes me no longer autistic or neurodivergent, which you would think is a bonus, but is half of what makes my creative mind flow. But it's also like the idea of getting hit in the brain with like a railroad spike, but just in the right spot, so that every time you eat Cheerios, you think of the happiest memories in your life, or the touch of the fair sex. Anyway, back to the point. So, a band comprised of the members Mike Shinoda and Emily Armstrong as our vocalists, Brad Delson on the lead guitar, Joe Hahn directing and spinning the ones and twos as the DJ. You hear all the record scratches in a ton of Linkin Park songs, albums, all of that. And Dave Farrell, also known as Phoenix as his stage name, on bass. And their newer drummer since COVID, Colin Britton, I believe I'm saying that right, on their drums. So yeah, again, we have Linkin Park From Zero. So what are your initial thoughts?
Initial thoughts. This is my first time listening to this album, and just for a heads up for anyone who's listening, Smigs and I did listen to the deluxe edition. So it's got like the 3 bonus songs on it. I had no interest when they first came out. I listened to The Emptiness Machine. That was the first single they put out, and I was like, you know what, this is actually pretty good. It's fine. We'll get into this later, but there's some stuff that came up about Emily Armstrong that completely just, I shut the band off. I'm like, I'm not going to listen to anything more. Forget about it. But we had one of our good friends, I don't know if he wants to be named on here or not, one of our good friends who asked us to do this album. And I'm like, yeah, let's go ahead and give it a shot. So first initial thoughts, I thought it was very average. Like, this is okay, it's fine. But to give a little bit of a background, I credit Linkin Park with getting me into the music that I listen to today. So before them, when I was a kid, I would buy movie soundtracks for a CD because I was like, okay, I like the Mortal Kombat movie. Let's buy the Mortal Kombat soundtrack. Or I would buy you remember the Now That's What I Call Music CDs?
Yeah.
So I would get those. My dad came home one day, and my dad is like an 80s music fan. He loves like the 80s one-hit wonders. Guy at work got him to listen to Linkin Park. So he came home with the CD, burned us a copy for you Gen Zers and under. Make a copy of the CD on your computer.
Age us, old man. System of a Down is dad rock, and we now have to admit it.
I know it is, but it all went from there. So I love Linkin Park. Hybrid Theory and Meteora were fantastic. That's where I stopped, though. So when I listened to this album the first time, I was comparing it to those 2 albums, which Hybrid Theory, it's a top 50 best-selling album of all time. think about how many like CDs or albums are out there. It's in the top 50. So that's a great album. Meteora took it up another level. That's like probably one of my personal top 10 albums of all time. I really don't think it's fair to compare this to those like prime Linkin Park.
Yeah.
So yeah, I went through and a little bit of my methodology here. I re-listened to all of Linkin Park's albums, all of them, this past week.
You can tell which one of us puts more work into this podcast.
After I listened to From Zero, went back and listened to all their albums, listened to From Zero 2 more times. After doing that, because I'm not going to say that Linkin Park's albums after Meteora were bad. I enjoyed a lot of them, but I don't think they ever like lived quite up to those standards album-wise. They had some great songs. Looking at all of their albums as a whole, it actually made it go up a few points for me. I enjoyed it a lot more the second and third time around after listening to like their entire discography or whatever, if that's how you pronounce it. But yeah, what did you think about it?
Discography. Yeah, so I kind of once you mentioned that the other day that re-listening to some of their albums, this certainly wasn't quote unquote the worst album of the bunch. I think there's something to think about as the average media digester, whatever. Anyway, I digress. Is the idea that like a 5 out of 10 is bad, like that, or whatever you consider to be like the bang on average on a scale to 10, which I guess should be a 5. That's right in the middle. Like a 5 out of 10 just means it wasn't way better. I think too many things get those 7, 8, 9s because then you don't leave a whole lot of room to go above that. And again, 5 is average in this country. Don't let anybody tell you differently. So I think just the idea that it being a 5 out of 10, or for me, just to give my rating up front, the most 6.5 out of 10 album I have ever heard in my life, that's not a bad thing, because
I agree.
Exactly, like you just said, it's certainly not the worst album, but if you go back to some of those Linkin Park albums, you have obviously the Numb, the Paper Cut, all of those phenomenal songs that take you back to your edgy teenage years and all of that, the songs that got a lot of people into this band, the songs that I was listening to in secret because this is one of my brother's favorite bands, and as the ever contrarian younger brother, I couldn't admit to him that I liked Linkin Park. Those are the kind of songs that obviously get you into Linkin Park, but then you listen to some of the rest of those albums, it's not that they're necessarily just disgustingly bad songs. The Grinch style, you wouldn't touch them with a 20.5-foot pole, but there's more peaks and valleys in the other albums, whereas this one just kind of flatlines you, not in the killing way, but this one just kind of flatlines you, where every song pretty much is just like a 6.5 out of 10, and that's fine. It just means, like, for me, if it comes on, maybe I won't turn it off, but it just also means that maybe I'm not going to seek out putting the album on in the first place.
That's good to say, because going forward on this podcast, when we give our ratings, it's good for people and us to know 5 out of 10 means average. That doesn't mean bad. I know in school, a 5 out of 10, a 50% is failing. That's not really how our scale works. Like you said, if something's a 5, we're going to consider it average, So that's a good way to put it. One thing I want to clarify, when I said this was not their worst album after going and listening to the other ones, I know people are probably thinking I'm meaning One More Light because it's like their pop album. That's not the one that I'm meaning. No offense to the band, to the group. I love them all. Chester is like a guy that so many people looked up to him and influenced by. The album 1,000 Suns was really bad. I did not like it at all. I think they tried to go experimental, which I respect them for, but it was a swing and a miss. So, I think From Zero is better than that one. It might be better than Living Things that has like New Divide on it. Everyone knows that one, but yeah, overall, I thought it was good. Since we went ahead and we're going ahead and giving our scores, I was going to do a 7.5. I think that was a little too generous, so I'm moving it down to a 7. So,
which again is good. That means the best of the best is what has to beat it. So, strangely enough, and again, coming from not necessarily a Linkin Park fan, not a hater, just not a fan, I think their best album is, and I don't even know if this is like a hot debate or anything, but the mashup they did with Jay-Z, because it was like a bunch of the songs that they had already written, and I don't know, if you want to talk about good ways to do experimental things, I think that brought a lot for both sides, because it gave the rap and R&B community something that you could bang your head to a little bit, and it gave the rock community, something that you could in Linkin Park, again, with the idea of having the DJ set up and all of that, their styles lended to each other something beautiful. They could live harmoniously.
I listened to the Linkin Park Jay-Z for the first time today. I had never heard it before. And I listened to it because I asked a friend at work. I didn't tell him about the podcast episode, but I was just like, what's your thoughts on Linkin Park? And he told me, in his words, the Linkin Park Jay-Z collab ended racism. That's what he told me.
We've done it. We've done it. The White and the Brown Man podcast. We have ended it. Well, I guess we're not Linkin Park, but we're talking about it, so it counts.
It was good, though. I really liked it. He told me, he's like, I don't know if it's still going to hold up, by the way, because I'm like, I'll throw it on now.
Yeah.
It does. It still holds up. It's good.
Yeah, it's all the right songs from both sides. Like I said, the styles, especially coming from Linkin Park's end, like, again, with the DJ and all of that, it was just, they would have had to kind of try to mess that one up, if I'm being honest, and they picked all the right songs, all the big hits from both sides, and Jay-Z is one of the most popular, famous, wealthy rappers to ever exist for a reason, whether you like him or not. It appeals rather to a lot of people. So for From Zero, like I said, there wasn't anything that made me want to turn it off. There wasn't necessarily anything that kind of made me want to keep it on, but as it went, because I did this before, I'll do my best Nardwar here and give a few background pieces of information that maybe people probably already know, but maybe you don't. So this was their 8th studio album. It was their first since the unfortunate, passing of Chester Bennington. So it was their first since 2017, that being One More Light. It's their first album with the new vocalist, Emily Armstrong, and the new drummer, Colin Britton. Of course, again, Chester Bennington passing in 2017. And then their drummer, Rob Burden, probably fucked that one up, but whatever, also left the band at that point. Now, I know we said there's some things to say about Emily Armstrong that could and potentially should turn you off to the idea. If you're one of those people that likes to separate the art from the artist, I'll also be getting into how I feel about her specific vocal stylings and all that. But if you want to get into the greater political debate about it all, I think there's a lot of reasons to unfortunately fucking hate her. But another thing that I actually just learned, and this has to be common knowledge amongst the fan base, is I was like, why is the name of the album From Zero? There's the obvious thought that, again, starting over without kind of the heart and soul, because the more you understand about Chester Bennington, he was the style of Linkin Park, right? That self-doubt, hatred, rage, just raw emotion coming from that man was pretty much how all of their songs were written, right? So there's the idea that they're starting from scratch, from ground zero, never forget, if you will. But I had also learned that the band's original name was Zero, but spelled Xero. And I'm no math magician or anything, but if you add 2 + 2, it does in fact seem like it equals, paying homage to the roots in one way or another. So those are a few behind the scenes things about them, but I still think that this album keeps a lot of the same stylings that real garage punk alt rock band, which, whether you want to experiment or not, is kind of the essence of Linkin Park and what makes them so appealing to so many people and what they've built their fame off of in the first place. Yeah,
and I think while we talk about this, because as you said, can't we separate the art from the artist? I'm going to talk about it purely from a musical standpoint at first, because I know by the end of this, we will get into Emily and some of the controversy around her. But when we first start this out, we are going to separate the art from the artist and just talk about it from a musical standpoint. So with that said, stick around to the end for our thoughts on that, because I think we both have a lot to say on it. Before we get to that, though, the music. We always do our standout tracks instead of going just song by song. Do you have any on this one? Because you said it was mid, so did you just put like none?
So I did have to stretch a little bit. At almost 32 years old, I should be doing that anyway. But the way I kind of describe this album is, whenever you're like walking by a white dude on the streets, that smile you get when you walk by him. It's just like that flat, like that. That's kind of what, exactly. That's kind of what a lot of the songs on this album made me do, if I'm being honest, which again is not good or bad. But the first single that they came out with, which you already mentioned, The Emptiness Machine, that was probably the one that stood out the most for me. It kind of introduces, well, I mean, it's the second song on the album, with the first one being a 10-second intro. So it is the first song on the album, essentially. So it really introduces you to what Emily Armstrong is going to bring to the band. And dude, I'll be honest, she got a good voice. She has a powerful voice without necessarily needing to push it as hard as Chester did, which again, that was his appeal, right? He could hit those screams and that agony in his voice that really made you feel something. But she has a powerful voice without needing to push it that hard. And honestly, sometimes when she does push it above and beyond that, it kind of doesn't really work for her. So, you know, it just, whenever she tries to like scream, it almost just reminds me of like an angry mother rather than like a hard rock scream. And I'll be honest, again, Emily Armstrong, bad person. She would probably make a terrible mother. She makes a great alt rock mommy though.
When you made that face and was like, I gotta be honest though, her vocals, I thought you were gonna say she wasn't that good. And I was gonna say, well, this is where we disagree, because man, she's really good.
She's insane. It sucks so bad that she's as good as she is. It sucks so bad. But so before we move to yours, I think I wrote down some lyrics from The Emptiness Machine, and to be again quite honest, she has a better range than Chester did, which Chester didn't need that range, but this opens maybe some more possibilities. Anyway, to me, it just kind of tackles something we talk about often here, and it's basically just, you know, what it means to be alive, create what you want out of life. But the lyrics were, I let you cut me open just to watch me bleed, gave up who I am for who you wanted me to be, don't know why I'm hoping, so fucking naive, falling for the promise of the emptiness machine. And you can interpret that a million different ways. You know, it dances in unison with a bunch of ideas, but it kind of, to me, encapsulated the idea of the struggles of who you are. Like we said about what the band, one of their main themes is, you know, doubting your own reality and wondering what role you play in life's faux fairy tale. And it is Rise Against put it, can you be the architect of your own fate? So that's why I think this is absolutely an amazing song. Not a 10 out of 10, but it gets a little repetitive and it is a little basic, which Linkin Park does sometimes tend to be. But if you're one of those listeners that, again, is willing to engulf yourself into the intimacy of lyrics and all of that, I think this one hit very good.
Yeah, and I'm glad you put some lyrics down, because I'm going to be honest, I didn't. One of my criticisms was that a lot of the lyrics, I don't know if they were being vague, like kind of interpret it how you want, or if it was like just generic, like, hey, we can put this on the radio, it'll be easily palatable to a lot of people. So not many of the lyrics stood out to me like it has on other albums, but that's just a me thing. Like, I'm not saying that it was bad, just personally it felt generic. And like I said, I don't know if they were trying to be generic or if they were trying to leave it open to interpretation, but those were the good ones that you wrote down. I guess for some reason it just didn't hit me like listening to it, but hearing you read them, I'm like, okay, yeah. And like you said, it can probably be interpreted several ways.
Hey, to be quite frank, again, I played that RPG on hard mode. I searched for something that I kind of wanted to write down. Again, those lyrics are just good, but I will not tell a lie. I searched a bit to A, find my standout, and B, lyrics that just also happen to be from that standout. So
that's fair. Emptiness Machine I had on honorable mentions. The one that I had for standout, I actually had three, but one of them was Heavy as the Crown. That's just a good song. It was heavier. I thought the lyrics were fine, like better than some of the other songs. And going back to her voice, because she has like some really good screams in it. I'm like, can't she do this live? So I looked up a YouTube video, and instead of going to like a professionally recorded one, because I'm saying it like convinced, like it's unknown, but I'm pretty sure that they add in stuff to the professionally recorded performances. Like if you're not sounding that good, they can edit it afterwards. Yeah. So I made sure to look up cell phone footage. So I'm like, this is like the raw.
That's the true shit.
She's good. She hits the screams. She doesn't hold out the scream as long as she does on the album. But even Chester, when he would do the 17-second scream on Giving Up, he would nail it sometimes. And just, you know, if you're playing your 50th show of the year, you might not be able to. You're
bouncing around, running around stage and stuff. That just. Yeah. So I'm glad you mentioned Heavy as the Crown, because you know how popular that song actually got.
No.
It was the anthem, the main theme song, whatever you want to call it, for the 2024 League of Legends World Championship.
Was it really?
So in league players are like the most self-hating, doubting community I've ever had the displeasure of knowing. So to use a band like Linkin Park is, I suppose, quite fitting in that regard. But yeah, it was because I was going through I was taking my notes and I was listening to all the songs through on YouTube because I don't know why I just didn't pull up Spotify, but whatever. But the music videos were playing, and when Heavy as the Crown came on, it was just all League shit. And it says right there, like, you know, anthem of 2024 League of Legends Worlds or whatever it was.
Is that like an animated music video?
Yeah.
Okay, because on
it makes
Spotify,
them look like they're in League of Legends, yeah.
Yeah, if you're listening to a song on Spotify, it'll loop like the same 5 seconds of the music video. And yeah, I saw that on there, but I was just like, oh, okay, they decided to go animated, because even in the Chester Bennington days, they had an animated music video, at least one. So I thought it was just an artistic choice. That's cool. That's a good song, though.
Yeah.
The other two that I had are Casualty, which I just liked it. I said that Mike Shinoda's vocals on that sounded like Sonny from POD. And anyone else who listens to POD, maybe you'll know what I mean, but listen to it, because I actually looked it up to see if he was featured. I'm like, is this him? He sounded different. I liked it. You know, you always just think about Mike Shinoda as doing like the rap bits, but it's kind of cool hearing him do something else. The last one was Two-Faced, and this song was like straight off of Hybrid Theory. I was looking up facts about the album, and I was trying to see, like, was this an old track that they didn't use, that they had Emily record? I didn't see anything about it, but I mean, it was heavy. It had the cool guitar riffs. It had Shinoda rapping again. It had turntables. Like, come on. This is like old school Linkin Park, and I loved it.
If you see the music video for Two-Faced, dude, so again, I don't want to gas up Emily Armstrong so much because, again, she's a shitty human, but she's God, it pains me so. But she, in that music video specifically, she is big, like if Harley Quinn was in a rock band vibes. Like, she's got that crazy look in her eyes, but she got like the nice suit on, and dude, the way they were just banging out in that video, dude, it was one of the most exciting music videos of any band, period, that I have watched in a very long time. Like, they just again, it's like that old, we're doing this for the love of the music, be in the garage and just bang on the drums and get after it kind of thing. Dude, God, she has such an awesome range of vocals. Yeah, Mike Shinoda and Armstrong play off each other so well. Like you said, the classic DJ record scratches hit at all the right times. The guitars are, I don't want to say a background piece to it, but they're much more used to keep the rhythm of the song going rather than to be the standout focal point of it, like a lot of other rock bands do. I thought Two-Faced was, it might have been in part because I liked the music video so much, but I also thought that was one of the better songs on the album.
Well, now I have to look up the music video, because
it was good.
I mean, that sounds awesome. So after this, I'll be watching the music video. But those were my three standouts. Emptiness Machine was an honorable mention because I do like it. I think most of the songs, it reminded me of like their Minutes to Midnight era. Kind of like you mentioned, more punk, kind of raw. I liked it. It was good. I do have one song that I did not like. And I just want to point that out real quick. What is the deal with the song Cut the Bridge?
Oh, okay. That's not the one I have.
Sounds so strange to me, because there's her vocals are really strong, but there's like almost no instrumentals. It felt like there was this very simple drum beat and she was yelling over it. It sounded like they tried to go for like Bleed It Out, because even Bleed It Out, when you listen to that song, the instrumentals aren't loud. There's nothing like real punchy. The guitars aren't super heavy, but Chester's vocals, he's going hard on Bleed It Out. It almost sounds like they went for that vibe, but it didn't work out this time. I shouldn't say it's a bad song, but something just feels strange, and I can't pinpoint it. That's the best I could do to describe it, is that the instrumentals don't match the vibe of the vocals. But
I can't remember exactly if this was a song that made me think it, because I haven't paid my subscription for that extra 10% of my brain yet. But I remember, like I said earlier, there were a few times where, and again, she does have good screams and a good aggressive voice, but I'm trying to separate aggressive from harsh. Chester was able to do harsh, like blow your vocal cords out harsh. She just has a strong, powerful voice. And I think Cut the Bridge was one of the songs where I felt like she, like you said, was trying to hit those Chester notes. And it's not that she necessarily can't. It's just, it's not quite as good as his. It doesn't seem to be where you would prefer her vocal range to be. And like you said, the song overall just didn't really, I don't know. I guess I didn't even think about it, but Bleed It Out is the best one to compare it to, but it's a much worse version of that.
Would you say that Chester, obviously, he had a lot of demons. There was a lot of stuff going on with him. Would you say that maybe his vocals could be more emotional than hers? Hers is more, refine's the wrong word, because like Chester still sounded really good, but you know what I mean? There's a difference between like a trained singer versus someone who's singing their heart out, like from emotion. I don't know about Emily's, like a whole lot about her backstory. Maybe she can sing from a place of pain or a place of emotion as well, but maybe she wasn't doing it on that song.
So you literally just said one of my bullet points, actually. Like you said, I played through Diablo 3 a number of times. I know what it's like to fight the demons. It's not an easy job. But I'm just going to read my bullet point word for word, actually. I don't like to read things directly from my notes. I try and keep it free riffing, but I'm just going to read this word for word. It says, Emily Armstrong doesn't change the identity of the band, but there is a spiritual difference in the sound she brings as opposed to Bennington, which is not a problem, but Bennington was it says everybody battles their own demons, but she simply doesn't have that same pain in her voice, which is not a problem. Bennington was very unique in that way for many, in that way, but you're 100% right. Like you can't fake the funk on that one. You can't fake it till you make it. Like you can understand and empathize with what Chester obviously had to go through, but and I'm not saying anybody's struggles are better, worse, or indifferent from anybody else's, but when you've gone through certain things in your life and you've dedicated your craft and your media and your outlet to expressing that, and then of course all the way to the point where he tragically took his own life for good, however I'm trying to say this, in a good way is how I'm trying to say this. Not too many people know what it's like to get to that point in their life. So even if she has gone through some shit in her life, and maybe she has, but she's still on this earth. So there was certainly something to Chester that was, you're just not going to be able to emulate that in that, like you said, you nailed it, in that same way where you feel that pain coming through his voice. Yeah,
and we're not saying that you have to be like troubled or have so many wrong things to be talented. Definitely not at all. It's just, you could be super happy and write a song and that comes through in your song. Unfortunately, if you are going through bad things in your life, that also comes out. And yeah, with Chester, it definitely did. Speaking of Chester, because we can't have a Linkin Park podcast without, making some comparisons or talking about it. Like I said, I only heard their first 2 albums and some of Minutes to Midnight until this past week. I heard One More Light for the first time, like actually listened to it in the car. I started crying in the car. There's just, I know people in life going through hard times, and obviously what Chester was going through, and he obviously didn't believe his own lyrics where it was saying, basically one more light goes out in a million stars. Who's going to care? The message is someone's going to care. Someone does. So the fact that he sang that song and didn't believe it himself, it just hit me. It hit me hard. Yeah. Yeah, for anyone struggling like that, just yeah, you are loved. People care about you.
Yeah.
But anyway, going through that emotional stuff, like you said, Emily Armstrong, maybe she did, but I also think there was a lot of pressure on her. She said she grew up listening to Linkin Park, or not grew up, but Hybrid Theory was one of her first things that really influenced her. She was like, I want to sing like him, is what she said when she heard Hybrid Theory years ago. And here she is in the band. So I did look up a couple interviews where she was talking about they actually worked together from like 2019 is when she started working with the band. It wasn't as a full-time member. She was just kind of recording things here and there. They said sometimes background vocals. It was just kind of more of a for fun thing. And then they're like, hey, so do you want to join the band and, not take Chester's spot, but yeah, when we sing the songs, you're going to be doing his part. You're our new lead vocalist. Can you imagine that? Like, can you imagine
childhood dream?
Let's say we don't want him to die, but let's say Matt Shadows quits Avenged Sevenfold, and then they ask you, do you want to come be the new vocalist?
I'll tell you, I can scream better than Johnny Christ can. You know that shit already. I'd be on that thing better than he would. Yeah, but yeah, exactly. That's like a childhood dream. It's like all, a bunch of sports players that grew up and then get to play for their hometown. If you grow up idolizing something, and a lot of the parasocial lives that people now live on the internet, watching streamers and all of that. You know, a lot of people in my younger years, even a time or two, I found myself, you know, to some extent pretending to be playing the games alongside of them, or, you know, doing what they're doing. That it's, you know, you shouldn't get too far into the parasocial rabbit hole, but it's a very natural feeling to feel that. And then if you get the chance to join as also bonus the front man lady in this instance, that's just, what more could you possibly want? You be falling over yourself saying yes.
And like when she's recording, maybe if she wasn't fully emotional, or, you know, it didn't come across that way, she might just be like, I need to hit everything perfectly. I need to do this right. You know, so I'm not going to blame her for that, but there is a difference. You can tell.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and like you said, you know, to all the points of like what this band has always meant in you can't replicate that. Same thing, like all the points of these albums are to bring to the limelight the struggles of the human reality. And again, there's always somebody out there that will care. There's always somebody out there that will love you. It's just a matter of finding the right people at the right times and all that. And unfortunately, not everybody is able to do that. So, you know, if you are a friend, go be a friend. Reach out to anybody. If you're the one struggling, just know that there's options out there for you. And, you know, but to that same point, going back to Emily joining the band, it is, especially when you're trying to be Chester in a sense, but also you just got asked to be the front lady of your favorite band, you are mixing the cold front and the warm front and creating some fucked up hurricane where like you're so elated, this has to be the best moment of your life, happy, now go make music about being sad. So
yeah, exactly.
And what I strangely did say right after the point of maybe she doesn't have that same pain and everything as Chester is there could be an evolution, maybe not an elevation, but an evolution to the band as a whole, because with a singer with more range, period, but also a different mindset, maybe it opens up new avenues, new emotions for the band to explore. I'm not saying again that they should change what their natural spirit is, but with her at the helm, the singing helm anyway, maybe they have more options now.
I don't know how much she was involved. Yeah, it is. I don't know how much she was involved in the writing process. It sounds like quite a bit. But one thing that I can respect about Linkin Park is even if I don't like the album, they always do something different. Like their albums all sound different to me. Even if like how Meteora built off Hybrid Theory, it's still different in its own way. They have similar sounds, but to me, they changed it up enough. Yeah, if she gets more creative control, or, you know, maybe they do some stuff that she would rather do, their next album, yeah, I'm looking forward to it at this point, is all I'm going to say.
Yeah.
So.
What I think is really interesting about Linkin Park specifically is, even though we did just talk about, you know, the themes of what their lyrics do mean, and much like any other band, you can create nothing out of something with lyrics and what they personally mean to you. But what I think makes Linkin Park unique is all of that tag along with the fact that they don't really ever step out of that comfort zone where they are creating a crazy amount of lyrics, or their instrumentals are usually rather repetitive overall and repetitive within the songs themselves. And the way I kind of explained to myself this album is, even though like a lot of the songs are as average as a guy named John Smith, they don't last that long, but that's a good thing because they don't overstay their welcome. So like,
completely agree. That's what I was just about to say.
Yeah, so like most rock bands make 4, 5, 6, all the way up to like Metallica's 9.5 minutes of Freebird, all that 9.5 minute songs. But Linkin Park almost benefits from staying in that 3 to 4 minute range. Just bang the ever living fuck out of the drums. Let your singer scream. Let Mike Shinoda do some rapping. They have so many moving pieces within it. Like, again, a rapper and a singer. You got a DJ. You have all the traditional instruments of a rock band. They had pianos, this, that, the other, obviously. So they already have so many different moving pieces going on within the band itself that you don't need to overcomplicate it.
Yeah, they did it well. I'm never mind. We'll get into it in a minute when we get to the controversy behind it. I was going to go ahead and jump in, but before we get to that, do you want to see how it charted?
Yeah, go for it.
Some of the reviews. So this actually did, it was pretty well received. It was generally positive reviews. Metacritic gave it a 71 out of 100, which, you gave it 6.5 out of 10. I gave it 7 out of 10.
Yeah.
Do a little bit of math here. They're about on pace with us. Metal Hammer gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. Blabbermouth gave it an 8.5 out of 10. So
wow,
that's really good. The lowest that I saw was something called Clash, which is a UK magazine. I clicked on it to see what it even was, and Dua Lipa was on the cover. So I don't know if like rock and
Brits
metal
know about alt rock. They got UK drill rap. Leave this one to the Americans. Not many things you can leave to the Americans. This is one of them, or the Dutch.
I don't know if this was really in their normal wheelhouse, but they gave it a 5 out of 10. That was the lowest that I saw. We already established 5 out of 10 means average. Maybe to that magazine it means bad, but
yeah, man, they eat beans on toast. So let's pretend like they have a creative brain over there.
The album debuted at number 2 on the Billboard 200 charts, which to me makes it even more impressive that Ghost and Sleep Token both ended up debuting at number 1 with their rock albums. Because if a Linkin Park reunion that seemed to get very successful reviews and it sold pretty well and lots of streams, if that peaked at number 2, which is great, it's impressive when an album actually does get to number 1. I don't know what they were battling in November. I'm not sure who was at number 1 in that spot, but yeah.
Still.
Pretty generally positively received.
What's even crazier here is, because I had a few of their accolades written down too, is they topped the charts at one point or another in 14 different countries, including the UK. So I don't know what Wheaties they pissed into one specific magazine or outlet or whatever, but the UK as a whole, the US, the UK, the boys down under. So if you're listening to this front to back, back to front, or even upside, inside out, you're living La Vida Loca with this album. So the UK as a whole even enjoyed this album, or so, the internet would say. They were on the worldwide and European iTunes and Apple Music charts. They were at the top. They were the top rock duo or group and top hard rock artist awards at the Billboard Music Awards. The Emptiness Machine was Alternative Airplay's awesome, amazing anthem of 2024, reaching number 1 there and mainstream rock airplay charts. And even in a day and age where everything is listened to through YouTube or Spotify, the point is it's being streamed, they sold physical copies insanely well. So even if you haven't felt the warm embrace of another human like myself or many of our listeners, if you're on the fucking internet this much, this album has found its forever home in so many places. So like Ryan said, he gave it the 7. I gave it like a 6.5. I'd be willing to bump it up to a 7. I'd also be willing to bump it down to a 6, which is obviously why I led to a 6.5. And like I said, honestly, nothing made me want to turn it off. Nothing made me want to keep it on. So I am interested though, Ryan, and here is why. Because the whole time I was writing my notes, I obviously knew there was plenty of controversies that came with Emily Armstrong, still do or whatever. I forgot to look any of them up. So you are also going to be teaching me some things here. So go ahead.
I got it right here. So shortly after the debut, because Linkin Park was teasing this for a little while, they had a 100-hour countdown on their website. No one knew what for. When it hit, 0 or whatever after the 100 hours, there was a message that said, "It's only a matter of time." Then an invite was sent out to Linkin Park Underground, which was Linkin Park's fan club. Didn't know that was a thing. Invite was sent to them for a 5-hour event in Los Angeles. For the people who showed up, we all now know that's when they debuted Emily Armstrong as their new singer. They debuted The Emptiness Machine, and they played Linkin Park classics live. They live streamed it. I remember turning that stream on right after it. I listened to The Emptiness Machine, and that's where I said, this is pretty good. But the internet did its job, as it always does, stuck its nose around in all the business, and they discovered that Emily Armstrong was a prominent Scientologist. And if you know anything about Scientology, it's not a good group. If you don't know anything about Scientology, I was actually about to start taking notes on it just to give a few examples of the horrible stuff that Scientology collectively has done. That would be an entire podcast series on its own. So just do yourself a favor, look up Scientology. You can put Scientology controversy. There's top 10 lists of the worst things Scientology has done. So you get my point. She was raised as a Scientologist. She also, the big one that people were not happy about. Did you ever watch that 70s show?
Yeah.
You know, Danny Masterson, Hyde?
Christ.
Yeah, for people who don't know, Hyde from that 70s show, Danny Masterson, is arrested, convicted of terrible things. I want to say sexual assault and domestic violence and just horrible stuff. You can look into the case more if you want, but it was not good. This wasn't an accusation, you know, like, oh, he might have done it. There's no proof. No, he's in prison right
done.
now.
Yeah, he's done.
Emily Armstrong showed up to his first court date in support of Danny Masterson. That came to light after their concert. And they're like, who did Linkin Park just hire? Why did they do this? Just a couple things, and we'll get into how you feel about this. She was raised a Scientologist, so her parents were first. While the Church of Scientology calls her a prominent member, other people who have gone have said that she's just kind of there. And as we know, if your parents grow up indoctrinating you into something, sometimes it's hard to leave, especially a place like Scientology where they can literally send you death threats
an actual cult,
if you try to leave. Like, so people were like, is she still a Scientologist? She was in another band called Dead Sarah before this, and some people argue that their lyrics, she's speaking out against Scientology. But again, you can get, I don't want to say in trouble, but I mean, your life could be in danger if you're a well-known person like that, and you start saying negative things about the church. The other thing, when it comes to Danny Masterson, she said she showed up to the first court case, learned more about what he did, and said that she was there to support someone that she thought was a friend. And after learning more about what he did not attend any more of the court cases. So while the things that she's being accused of are true, that's her stance on it. That's what they said about the lyrics in her old band. They said that she is not an active participant in Scientology. So it's tough. It's hard to come to a conclusion about, do we separate the art from the artist here? Do we support a band that now has a well-known Scientologist and what some people would say, you know, a Danny Masterson apologist fronting their band? Do you support it? Do you believe her? What do you think?
That's, you know, I'll be honest.
And that's a lot to take in because you said you didn't look it up first. This is a lot to try to just
I actually think this is way more interesting than I anticipated because while I should have done my homework on this, it was the one piece that I forgot here. Okay. I was waiting to hear something like anti-Semite or something that you could just like nail her for, right?
Sure.
So I'll start with the Danny Masterson thing. I think that one is interesting because if you also recall, and I don't know how good or bad of people these two are either, but if you recall, Ashton Kutcher and Mila Kunis also came out in big support of him. And maybe that's because they were obviously friends with him on the show and all of that. And maybe Emily was just liked the show, liked him as a human, or maybe they were friends or whatever. It is very easy to see how people could initially get put into that trap. What I will say is if you initially support that and then you later run it back, walk it back and say, hey, I learned more. This ain't, no. That is at least something good, right? You're at least being able to admit the faults that were there. What I would say is if you are going to come out so vehemently in support of somebody, though, you should probably have your facts together before you do that. Especially people like Mila Kunis and Ashton Kutcher who knew him for so fucking long. And again, obviously people of that ilk, you know, dangerous minds work in dangerous ways, and you're able to pull the wool over so many people's eyes very, very easily, unfortunately. But if you do support something like that, even if you do walk it back, your own judgment of character and your own character kind of get called into question too, because what else are you willing to fall victim to without putting any research into it or just blindly supporting? Like, obviously he was being taken to court for a reason, and this one's almost a bit easier because he was being taken to court for a reason. So all you have to do is just look at what reasons he was being taken to court for and be like, well, maybe I should research first. Maybe I should learn first. In a day and age where you got to move the needle one way or another, and the internet is just lambasting you to give any opinion before you're ready. Again, I'm not going to sit here and pretend like anybody has to be perfect. I get why people are so rushed to give their opinions, but for something of that magnitude, let's maybe just be like, hey, I don't know what I stand for yet, Let me kind of gather what I need to know, and then I'll talk about it. So, yes, it is easy to get sucked into that initial support and then walk it back, and that's still a good thing. But what does that say about you, right? Like, where is your brain? Where is your judgment at? Why? And again, with something that literally had accusers and a reason that he was being taken to court, why are you not doing your research first? That's almost just as dangerous to an extent, because now you're speaking out in support of a guy who did very heinous things. So moving to the Scientology thing, I have a lot of thoughts on this one, because, and this is not, I've talked about this on my streams and all of that, and my big motto in life is live however you want, be whoever you want. I don't care about any of that. Be black, white, brown, gay, trans, whatever. It doesn't fucking matter to me. It doesn't change my life at all. As long as you're not inhibiting somebody else, not hurting somebody else. Scientology is an interesting one, because even though it's like a religion or whatever, it's a cult. It's a gang. So however you want to refer to it as, because like you said, you know, I grew up Catholic. I grew up Catholic, Christian, Catholic, however you want to refer to it. My parents are still Catholic. They're not on the super nutty side or anything. My sister is involved with Catholicism still and all of that. But I have since become more agnostic, which means, for those who don't know, basically, I recognize that there could be, you know, a Christian God, a Catholic God, and all of that could exist, but I don't want to spend the only 82 years I have on this earth playing a giant guessing game of faith. So I recognize that it could be a thing. I recognize that it cannot be a thing, and I'm just going to let that reality sit. I'm not going to talk shit on it. I'm not going to, you know, follow, practice, and believe in it anymore like I did when I was growing up. So for somebody like me, it was as simple as kind of take the teachings that were brought to you and all of that. And for me, it was kind of easy because a lot of Catholicism contradicts itself. Love all of God's children, unless they're gay. So like that was kind of like the big one that never really sat good with me. But it was pretty easy for me to say, like, hey, maybe this does all exist, maybe this is all real, but the way that I interpret the world that I live in and the reality that I am forced to inhabit, and what I think are some of the downsides of this religion, I am willing to step away from it, remove myself from it in most regards, and create out of life how I want it to be lived. Like the golden rule is just basically, I just want to treat others how I would like to be treated. So, and I don't need, you know, a set of faith or beliefs or a religion to tell me how to fucking do that, right? Like I can think with my own brain, right? I think a lot of people follow Scientology or Catholicism or any other religion because they just need some sort of structure or guidance on how to think in a way. And I'm not saying that's everybody, obviously. I'm not trying to talk down. But to the point of Scientology, I think it's obviously harder, like you said, to be able to step away, getting threats, this, that, the other. But, and maybe this is going to sound ignorant because I'm about to speak directly against that, but once you learn everything that Scientology is about, why would you stay? Why? And again, if you fear for your life, that is a very legitimate thing and a very hard thing to step away from at that point. But like, if I could put it in a layman's way, if you understand what Scientology is, if you choose to still even just be around, even if you're not a prominent figure, if you're just around, you know, that sucks, but now you're associated with that. You are part of that. So that one, hey, 1, 2, 3, you're out, baby. Like you just strike out on that one for better or worse. So even though on both occurrences, I can kind of understand why it's so hard to not give that initial support to Danny Masterson, and then at least you walked it back, which is a good thing. But again, do your effing research before you talk about something, especially as a figurehead of one of the most famous bands in the world. Although maybe that was before. Regardless. And then the Scientology thing, I get how it's hard to step away, especially with death threats and this, that, the other. But you know, the other side is just you forever being societally outcast by normal people because now they just think of you as a Scientologist. So I get both sides of it, and I guess strangely enough, I'm more willing to kind of, I don't necessarily want to say forgive, I guess the word is just understand why that is the way that her brain works for those things, but it still doesn't even remotely excuse either one of them.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to the Danny Masterson thing, like you said, you don't want to forgive it, but as far as I know, that was before she was in Linkin Park. Maybe it was in the early
I would
stages
assume,
where she
yeah.
was working with them on things. But it's not like she knew she was going to become the front woman, front man, whatever, of this massive band. If she really did go to one court case, because I don't know how good of friends they were. Maybe they were best buds. Who knows? And she decided to go to her friend's court case. Maybe I think she might be telling the truth. After she learned more of the detail, she stopped going. I don't think she stopped going because, she knew she was going to be in a huge band.
Preliminary hearings in 2020. So pretty much right around the same time.
Yeah, she had started working with the band, but there wasn't even rumors about her joining it. So
yeah,
I don't know why she would lie about that. If she went to every single court case or wrote a letter like Ashton Kutcher and Mila Kunis did defending him, then I'd be like, okay, you're just saying it to save face. But I don't know. It doesn't seem like she is giving any reason to lie about that. When it comes to Scientology, I kind of agree with what you're saying. I grew up in basically an evangelical household. So I went to a church that had no instruments. You couldn't have instruments because those don't belong in church, that sort of strict. I couldn't watch a rated R movie till I was 17. Couldn't listen to music that had bad language in it.
I'm not gonna lie, I love you to death. That explains so much of why you're right? Just so calm and nice and have a generally positive demeanor to you. That explains so much.
Yeah, sure. I wasn't allowed to do anything, but yeah, rated M games, you can forget about it. However, you go to friends' houses. That's where you can, be exposed to all that stuff. But I do still believe in God. I have very different beliefs, though, from the church that I grew up in. So, like how you said about love everyone, love the Lord your God, and love your neighbor as yourself, it didn't say unless they were gay or trans or anything like that.
Right.
So that's how I try to live my life, But even though I've changed my views about those things, I'm not going to receive death threats for them. No one from the church is going to come after me. On the other end of that, though, I'm not going to say her being a Scientologist is unforgivable. I wish that she would come out and address it because she's never said anything about Scientology, good or bad. Even though I still have my beliefs, I think the horrible stuff that goes on in the Catholic Church should be called out and exposed, and those people should not be a part of the church. I don't know if you heard, but a very popular band in the Christian music scene, Newsboys, turns out that their singer, a almost 60-year-old man for the last 20 years, has been grooming boys. All right? That stuff should be called out. That's not okay. And I have seen other Christian singers who are like, this is awful. This is horrible. I think in the same regard, even if she doesn't leave Scientology, why can't she come out condemning the bad stuff that's happened? I get it. It's like you said, it's a cult. If she did that, that's probably the equivalent of leaving. But still, it would be nice if she could at least address it. Yes, I grew up this way. My parents still are. She attended the 44th anniversary gala, whatever you say, of the church. So it's just tell us your views. Give us your opinion. But, if she comes out saying, yeah, I still support all that stuff. I donate money. I do this, that. That'll probably hurt Linkin Park's image, hurt her own image. Who knows? So I just wish she would say something.
Is either for Scientology, it's one of those you have to speak. Well, maybe that's not fair, but you have to say one way or another, because if you say nothing, you're just assumed to be down with all of it.
Exactly. So I wish she would say something. Here's my take, though. When it comes to separating the art from the artist in this case, I think that I can. I think that I'm able to in this instance. Yeah. Because it doesn't seem like she's a prominent Scientologist, until she gives us more reason to not listen to her music and, say that she's a horrible person. When Linkin Park comes out with new music with Emily Armstrong, I'm going to listen to it now. Mm-hmm. When it comes to separating the art from the artist with people like R. Kelly, I can't do that. I can't.
Absolutely not. Absolutely
not separate the art from the artist.
Him and P. Diddy now. No.
P. Diddy?
No.
When it comes to Michael Jackson, there is so much, yes, he did, no, he didn't. I still listen to his songs. If Beat It comes on or something like that, I'm going to listen, but I'm not going to lie, it's harder. Yeah. So I don't think being able to separate the art from the artist is as easy as black and white. I think you just kind of have to make your own judgment. If you have been personally hurt by Scientology before, you probably won't want to listen to Emily I don't know. I don't know how else to say it. Like, I think it really is just a case by case basis.
Yeah, I think you nailed it at the end there. It's honestly, I am also quote unquote willing to separate the art from the artist on this one, because it is her major two examples are both not excusable but understandable to some minds. So if you're willing to, hey, sure. And if you're not, then that's equally as valid, equally as well taken and all of that. So it is 100% a case by case, and because it's background supporty stuff, not like, again, the stuff that R. Kelly and P. Diddy did, like provably did, and probably would still do if they'd ever got caught, right? So it's equally valid opinion either way. If you stop listening to Linkin Park because of her, hey, it's your prerogative. Consequences come with actions and all of that. So,
but I know you have to go in a minute. We have to go in a minute and wrap this up. One more bomb I want to drop to see if this changes your final opinion. Chester Bennington's son came out against Emily Armstrong, saying that it destroys his father's legacy. They announced her as the new singer on Suicide Awareness Month, and he pointed to all the things that we just discussed about, or that we just discussed. He didn't say anything new about Scientology or anything like that. He brought up the same accusations. The other thing that I want to leave you with, Chester Bennington's mother is also against it. I guess Mike Shinoda kept in contact with Chester's family. He told Chester's mother that if they made any decisions when it came to a band, finding a new singer, things like that they would inform her. They didn't let her know. Is this a Mike Shinoda problem, though, or an Emily Armstrong problem? Because I'm not blaming Emily for that one.
Yeah, for that one, that's a Mike Shinoda problem. If you promise something, you keep that promise. And I mean, it's also another interesting case, right? Is because, like, were they ever going to be okay with it? Because it's hard to separate the idea that was your son, your brother, whatever, and the way that his life ended is just so insanely tragic. That has to leave such a large black stain on your heart as the family.
Absolutely.
So, like, were they ever going to accept anybody, period? And obviously it's a lot easier to hate Emily Armstrong in that regard. So I would wonder how much of that really plays into it, this, that, the other. But also, like we said, if you don't like Emily Armstrong, it's an entirely valid opinion to have. So, yeah. But for the mother part, I think that's a Mike Shinoda problem, for better or worse, because even if he does go and say, hey, here's who we're replacing with, and she says no, he's the band member. What is he just going to be like? Well, now this insanely talented woman, now we just had to tell her no because our old singer's mother said so. And that's a callous way of putting that, but it's like, we can all be adults a little bit here, right? Like, you found the right fit, you found the powerful voice that you needed, and somebody that is very passionate about the band. The family members, and again, it's going to sound very callous, but for the band now, you take a little bit of a backseat. You deserve honor and respect and all of that for what Chester did in his life and for the band, but step aside a little bit. Yeah.
Closing thoughts. Emily Armstrong, great vocalist. I think she was a good choice for Linkin Park going forward. However, I feel like she's on thin ice with a lot of people. If any other controversies come out, there's a good chance that they're done for. Or as Gen Z says, they're cooked. Like it's over.
They're canceled.
Even now, they had stadium tours planned where they were playing like Dodger Stadium with Queens of the Stone Age opening. They had to drop Queens of the Stone Age as their opener and move to smaller venues because tickets weren't selling. Eesh. Now, moving from Dodger Stadium to an arena,
still good.
Okay, great. You're still doing amazing. But yeah, I think she's on thin ice with a lot of people. From Zero, I liked it. It was good. I think it was just barely above average. That's why I gave it a 7 out of 10. I'm looking forward to the future parts.
Yeah, like I said, 6.5, maybe even a 7. It's a good album if you're a Linkin Park fan and you're just looking to put on the album for an hour-long commute or something, just bob your head to it, whatever. Hey, it's good enough. I am excited for the band's future, even as a non-consistent listener to them. It passes all the vibe checks of being able to go down the rabbit hole without making you late for a very important day with Alice and all of that. It's just a good album. Emily Armstrong, feel about her as a person however you want. As a vocalist, damn, she is good. She brings the energy. Go and watch that Two-Face music video. And as always, Linkin Park nailed the ideas of their themes. They're easily relatable, easy to understand, and all of that. So, yeah, by all means, check this out.
Yeah, to the people who've been listening recently, thank you, because we got an increase in listeners from the last episode, so I appreciate you. If you want to follow us on X, you can say we're starting from 0 on X, because we have 2 followers right now. We're _rants_pod. But that's it. Appreciate you guys. Smigs.
Yeah, I believe next week we'll be doing System of a Down's Mesmerize. So for any dads out there, any grandpas, and any people above the age of 50, this one's for you coming up. And then we're gonna try to get a little bit more consistent with figuring out what we're gonna do, even though you guys would have not known the wiser if I didn't just say that. But next week should be System of a Down's Mesmerize. Until then, thank you all for rocking with us. I've been Smiggy. This is
Ryan.
Love you all. See you next time.
Bye.